and to disrupt anything that is negative. Lord, we continue to listen to you, to be with you, follow you. In Jesus' precious and holy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Member Clark. Members, let me welcome, even though few in numbers, members that made it on time. I think we're going to ask the clerk to remind members that we are scheduled for a 10 a.m. start. I think it is grossly unfair to the MDAs that we asked to appear at the PAAC that they're generally on time, and we're starting anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour after the scheduled time. We have to be reminded that these are persons who work for the government of Jamaica, and there are, I'm sure, things that they can be doing in their various agencies that they work in. So, you know, even though we generally will have a good turnout of members to the committee, but we need to be minded that we have a 10 a.m. start and not an 11 a.m. start. Members, we have quite a few reports and follow-up reports that we have requested. We got finally from the Ministry of Transport and Mining that report that we asked for, and we are now in receipt of the report on the beaches rehabilitation program. The clerk will in time circulate those reports so that members can go through them. But also we have reports coming from Ministry of Justice, Ministry of National Security, and Office of the Prime Minister, HART and NSTA. So at the end, when we are to set the date for the next meeting, I want us to have a conversation on these reports and schedule the appearance of these ministries and departments and agencies. So again, members, especially for both of you, thank you for being on time, and welcome, and let us have a productive meeting. Item 4, apologies for absence. So far we have apologies from Member Morrison, Carencia Morrison, Ms. Lisa Hanna, Ms. Tovia Hamilton, and Member Sybil's indicated that he would be late. Members, confirmation of the minutes have been circulated. Can I take it that the minutes have been read? And can I have a member moving for the confirmation of the minutes? Okay. Sorry? No corrections. All right. So, Member Henriquez and Member Clark seconding. Are there any matters arising from the minutes, members? I think the only, matter that I saw was that we had asked Ministry of Agriculture. Member Sibley's had asked for quantitative data that they were to put that data together, which they said was missing, and there was a page that was missing from. Oh, today. So, okay, all right. So they're expected to submit that today. I'm being told by the clerk. Yes, Member Clark.
I see where Member Hamilton had stated that the Ministry of Tourism was asked to provide a report on the status of Negril Breakwater project. Did we get that report?
Yes, which it came from. That came the last meeting. I think we. Oh, it's here. Yeah.
I'm not seeing it, so
right. No. It's in your. All right. So the clerk is advising that it is here, so we'll have that. All right. Any Other matters arising?
From you mentioned the last time about farmers dumping produce.
Yeah.
Did you ask that?
Well, we had asked for a quantitative report overall in which would bring that in. So that report, I am being told by the clerk, should be submitted today by the Ministry of Agriculture. So I'm hoping, yeah.
They are going to be here today? No.
Oh, just submit a report. Submit a report. Today we have Ministry of Investment.
I didn't make a comment, but investment is going to be here.
Yes.
So I could ask a question then.
Yes.
Because I still want to find out what is it that we are doing with surplus. Surplus.
Okay.
Produce.
Yeah. Yes.
How we treat it.
Right ministry to ask. All right, so members, if there are no other matters arising, we move on to new business. Can you invite the ministry in, please? Good morning, Madam Pierce. Morning.
Morning, Chairman.
Morning, team members. Let me start out by thanking you for your early report. We requested a report from the ministry and its departments and agencies. So what we are doing as our committee is looking at the effect of COVID on the ministry and its departments and agencies. Basically looking overall and seeing what effects to the economy itself and any recommendations that we can make from a committee to helping the ministry. So let me thank you for appearing here this morning and to your members. We start out by allowing you to make your opening remarks. And if there are any heads of agencies that are here who would like to, so if you can just let us know the agencies that came with you this morning, and then we can take them one by one, having them make some opening remarks and then allow the members to ask questions as they see fit.
Certainly, Chairman. Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members. Let me just make a short opening statement. Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, we oversee a portfolio of 18 internal divisions, 2 departments, and 15 agencies that are committed to overcoming the challenges presented by COVID-19. As you would have intimated, Chairman, COVID has had a profoundly negative effect on Jamaican businesses, but thankfully we are now seeing a reversal of our improvements in many of these areas. Notwithstanding the challenges, the ministry and its agencies pivoted their operations to provide additional support to industry and to harness the opportunities on the horizon. The ministry is the main pillar that supports micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, MSME development, of course, investment promotion and trade promotion through JAMPRO, facilitation and advancement of consumer protection and empowerment as well. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, various mitigation strategies were implemented, including revised procedures for facilitation and regulatory activities, for instance, the administration of the productive input relief, the surveillance arrangements at the CLA, the Trade Board and its procedures and so on. All of those were adjusted to take into account the restrictions and the social distancing requirements of COVID-19. In addition to that, we provided enhanced business support and capacity building initiatives, online training, assistance in e-commerce, and various such areas to improve the capacity of our MSMEs to be able to better operate within the new shifts in the market and to escalate their online presence. But we also have been using online presence in terms of investment promotion and export promotion. And JAMPRO is with me and would be able to provide additional information on some of those areas. In terms of trade promotion and investment promotion, JAMPRO has been seeking to maximize investments in and exports from Jamaica during this challenging time, and at the same time driving job creation with support and to support potential investors in all areas, including tourism. They would have looked at new areas of prioritization, agribusiness, BPO and support to BPO, manufacturing as an area that was an emerging area for growth during the pandemic, whilst at the same time continuing to push investments for Jamaica more broadly and to provide support to existing investments that were underway at the start of the pandemic. For the financial year 21-22, the ministry is focusing on facilitating the implementation of the manufacturing sector strategy, the national agribusiness strategy, trade facilitation, and maximizing opportunities for exports. So the ministry and its agencies are also spearheading the development of new emerging industries. So in the minister's presentation, he would have spoken, for instance, about the bamboo industry and the work that is ongoing to support and develop that industry. We'll be looking very closely at the craft industry as well. Too much of the items sold to our tourists are coming in from overseas and how we can support and develop the craft industry. And that includes our project on essential oils extraction that JBDC will be able to provide additional details on. And we're also looking at continuing implementation of our MSME and entrepreneurship policy and a national quality policy. For the medium term, the priorities that will inform the development of the ministry's program includes strengthening of the national quality infrastructure, improving trade facilitation and maximization of opportunities for exports, implementation of the national investment framework, and there's a national investment policy which is moving forward, which will structure in a much more organized and collaborative way the way that we support investments coming into the country. Mrs. Cox is here from JAMPRO and will be able to provide you with full details on that. Enhancement of the business environment for growth and development for MSME and other sectors. And we have a strong legislative program that we are pursuing towards improving the business environment. You will know, Chair, that just recently there was the passage of the Madrid Protocol related act right here in the House, and that legislation was also passed without amendment in the Senate, and we are moving forward now with the accession to the international treaty so that we can move ahead to have that put in place to the benefit of especially our manufacturers and persons in the creative industries. And we are continuing to look at how we can strengthen this new ministry, and I said new in inverted commas because there has previously been a Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, but there was the merger with into MIIC. We have recently demerged, so there is some strengthening and capacity building and so on that we have to do to make sure that we can deliver strongly. I have Mrs. Sutherland Reid with me, and she will be able to update on the various amendments and new legislation that we're looking at to support the industry. So, Chairman, let me introduce the persons that I have with me this morning. So I have, and I'll just ask them to just raise their hand as I call their name. So I have CTD Michelle Parkins, who is immediately to my left. I have Mrs. Shalette Cox, and Mrs. Cox is Vice President, Research, Advocacy, and Project Implementation at JAMPRO. So a number of the new policy initiatives are being developed in her area, and she will be able to speak to that, as well as the Export and Promotional Trust, which is being undertaken by JAMPRO. I also have Mr. Carl Hyatt with me, Senior Director, Policy, Planning, Projects, and Research. I think he just stood up. Mr. Oral Shaw, who is our Principal Director, MSME, all things MSME, Mr. Shaw. Mr. Shaw will also speak to any questions relating to financing, especially for the MSME. Ms. Dania Ashpool is our International Trade Specialist. Mrs. Sutherland Reid, I mentioned, Yvette Sutherland Reid, who is our Senior Legal Officer. Ms. Valerie Vieira is with us and is well known, I'm sure, to everyone. Chief Executive Officer of the Jamaica Business Development Corporation. And she has with her Ms. Michelle Cowan, who is her Financial Manager. Ms. Faith Graham from Companies Office of Jamaica, Chief Executive Officer. Sorry, Faith Graham, CLA, Chief Executive Officer acting at the Cannabis Licensing Authority. Sorry, Ms. Graham. Mr. Marcus Goff is with us from JAIPO. He is acting executive director, so if we want to understand more about the Madrid Protocol, for instance, and other areas of intellectual property, he is with us and can assist with that. Ms. Judith Ram Logan, she is the Chief Executive Officer for the Companies Office of Jamaica. So, Chairman, that's the team that I have. You will see that it is a team which is rich in knowledge and experience. And so I am anticipating that we will be able to answer any questions yourself or other members of the committee may have. I will take you up on the opportunity, Chairman, although we had not worked on that basis, to see whether any of my heads of agencies would want to give short opening remarks, as well as Mrs. Cox, who is with us from JAMPRO. So perhaps JAMPRO and JBDC as the entities which are providing direct support to JAMPRO and JBDC as entities that provide direct support to businesses and would have been working with businesses. Perhaps those two entities, Chair, I would ask to make short opening remarks. So I'll ask Mrs. Cox.
Before they make their remarks, can you give us just an overview, basically, on the effect of the pandemic on especially the small and medium-sized enterprises, how it affected your exports, how did it affect the manufacturing sector, just to give an overview, since we're mainly focusing on that area of the pandemic. So coming from when we basically announced the first, in March of last year, basically till now, how is it that the pandemic has affected the industry itself, or just overall? And you can start off with small and medium size. And then we can have the conversation around that.
In terms of the figures, Chair, and I'll have CTD back up as necessary. Our figures to the end of the financial year, March 31st, would have shown a reduction in employment in the MSME sector of 17%. Reduction in, and the figures I have here indicates 101,528 individuals. Reduction in MSME firms by 22%. Decline in output by 19.7%. And reduction in contribution to GDP of 9%. So those are the figures that I have with respect to MSME. I know we have some figures as well related to the manufacturing sector, and my minister had spoken very directly to that in the presentation. There was an indication that well, the figures were let me give you the figures that I had, Chairman. Jamaican Manufacturers and Exporters Association reported a 14.5% decrease in demand for goods among 44% of its membership, with 33.3% of its members reporting an increase of 11.3%. In terms of revenues, but these are quarter figures. So let me see, Chairman, whether any of the team members have with them. CTD, would you have figures with you that would look more broadly at impact on the manufacturing sector?
Not immediately, yes, Chairman, but we can provide you with those specific figures.
So the figures I have, Chairman, immediately to hand looks at a particular quarter, and I don't think that will be as useful to you as if we got you the overall figures.
All right, members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome to Madam Pierce and her team. In the report you submitted, I have a particular interest in page 4, the way forward, response to COVID-19. And I just want to invite a little bit of elaboration just to add some clarity. And I say this, Mr. Chairman, against the background that, as we all acknowledge, the pandemic has caused a reduction across the economy in virtually every sector. And when I hear the term referred to as growth, in my mind, I don't think in all seriousness we can talk about growth. We talk more about recovery, because whatever increase you have incrementally in each quarter, it doesn't represent any particular increase over normal time. It's just to get back to where you were and to increase. So as a backdrop, we know that the country and the world has suffered enormous setback from the pandemic. And so the important thing is, what are we doing? Because we're still in the pandemic, right? Although there seems to be a light at the tunnel, hopefully with the vaccination, which is, still a far way to go. But to the extent that we open up, as the Prime Minister announced yesterday in some of the measures, what are the things we are doing or we have planned for opening up that can, cause some rapid increase? So when you mention, for example, in that section, and that's why I have an interest in this section in the report for elaboration, tell us, and by us I'm not speaking to just us in the committee, but the country, when you speak of strengthening the national quality infrastructure towards standards-led market-driven economy, very loaded term. What does that mean?
Sorry, I got distracted for a minute there, Chair.
Okay.
Remember,
no, I'm going by the report submitted.
Right.
And I'm on page 4, the way forward. And you list a couple of, in fact, 8 items. And I want to get a sense of what are these things which are being done as the way forward, as the way to get us out. Because, PS, this is the growth economy. The growth ministry.
Right.
Right? This is where the activities are in the economy for us to realize growth. Small, medium-sized businesses all across the world is the major segment that gives the largest growth. So for me, your ministry is crucial. It's like the fulcrum for our growth prospects going forward. So in this report, strengthening the national quality infrastructure towards standards-led market-driven economy, improves trade facilitation and maximum opportunities for export. Big terms. Elaborate, what does those mean? And I'm asking it for this medium, small business. When I say you are doing these things, what is it you are providing for that they can expect to tap into that is going to give us the fillip to go forward?
Sure, Chairman. All right, if we take them one by one, I'm going to ask the team members who are well versed in these matters to provide you with the details. So if we start off with item 1, CTD.
Thank you, PS. Our national quality infrastructure comprises of our quality agencies, which includes the Bureau of Standards, the National Certification Body of Jamaica, JANAC, the accreditation agency, our national compliance and regulatory agencies, our Bureau of Standards, as well as our Consumer Affairs Commission. And there is a program, our National Quality Infrastructure Program, which we are strengthening to ensure that standards, we have a standards-led economy. That is through the BSJ, we are developing standards and ensuring that the quality of our goods and services, both in the local marketplace as well as in our international market space, meet these standards. You would have heard that through JANAC, we are strengthening our accreditation program through the pre-accreditation program that we have just implemented that will assist entities to become pre-accredited before they get to full accreditation. So we're rolling that out as a part of the arrangement. We are finalizing the legislative initiative to fully separate the BSJ from the National Compliance and Regulatory Authority, and I'm sure that matter has been ventilated in the House already on previous occasions, but we will seek to strengthen the capacities within the National Compliance and Regulatory Authority to be able to do more surveillance and monitoring and to be able to remove non-compliant products from shelf. We will be improving our testing facilities in the Bureau of Standards to be able to do more testing of the products. And through our Consumer Affairs Commission to ensure that the products out there are safe for our consumers. But more importantly, we will be seeking to implement what we call a technical regulations regime, which will move our standards arrangement from voluntary standards to more mandatory arrangements. Simply put, entities will be required to comply fully with some of the standards that we now have that are compulsory. We will be looking to strengthen our businesses, especially our MSMEs, to be able to meet the requirements for export markets, the standard requirements, the labeling requirements for export markets, as well as to ensure that products entering our marketplace, that our local products are able to, from a standards perspective, compete with those products that are entering our market space. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, Member. Well, just a follow-up, Clark? Member Clark? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
With respect to trade facilitation, a lot of work, member, is happening with respect to the J-SWIFT IT program, which will improve the way our products come into the country and go out of the country. There's a whole process for importation and exportation, and I'm going to ask Dania Ashbold to provide you with the details on that. She's our lead on that project.
Good morning, Chairman, and good morning, members. In terms of the trade facilitation program, it is a wide program, and you'd have heard about this term for some years now. We have projects that are ongoing now. PS mentioned one, which is J-SWIFT. The Trade Board Limited was the first entity to be launched on J-SWIFT in July of last year. Really, what it does, it takes all the transactional processes of the Trade Board Limited online. So you can apply for your permit, your licenses, the full gamut of the process online. So it was done in on a phased basis. The PQPI, the Plant Quarantine and Produce Inspection Branch, was launched on March 1st for their import procedures and are scheduled for export procedures later on this year, I believe in another month or so. Additionally, persons can apply for certificates of origin from the Trade Board Limited. That was the process for that started yesterday in terms of the sensitization and training for that. So J-SWIFT is being launched step by step in terms of the onboarding of different border regulatory agencies. The true goal of that is to enhance efficiency and to reduce the time and cost to do business. In addition to J-SWIFT, there would have been the J-TIP, which would have been launched in 2019, and we're enhancing that to make trade information available easily to traders. In times gone by, you would have had to go to different places to get different pieces of information. The J-TIP now brings that information in one place and also gives you as much as a process flow, what you need to do first, second, third, and so on and so forth. In addition to J-SWIFT, there is also a technical committee working on border agency re-engineering. And one of the key projects under that is border agency inspection coordination. Normally, or if I may say now, you will have to have different border regulatory agencies inspect your containers. So the PQPI may come on one day, then the Public Health Department will come on another day. We're working on a process that would have eliminated that process, and so far we have the FSPID and the PQPI that have signed off on a protocol that allows one to inspect on behalf of the other. And we're hoping that the next part of this process will be a sign-off and actually operationalization of a similar process between the Veterinary Services Division and the Public Health Department. We're also looking at how we enhance the laws. The first one would have started with the Customs Act, and I may say that trade facilitation is a partnership. This ministry leads on it, but we work with other agencies such as the Jamaica Customs Agency to implement the reforms under the program. And so we would have started with the Customs Act and are moving expeditiously to the repeal and replacement of the Trade Act that was last revised in 1955. So those are, I would say, flagship processes on the trade facilitation, but they are also bolstered by things that JAMPRA could speak on in terms of the National Business Portal. And it sounds like not a lot of at the end of the day, and I know that question would have come, Chairman, it is about having interoperability between these different portals. So if you're an investor, your first point of contact will be the National Business Portal. It takes you through the process. And if you want to, as an investor, get to export, it leads you directly into J-Swift.
Well,
just a quick, Mr. Ashford, thank you. You use quite a bit of acronyms in your presentation, which kind of, well, that aside, fine. And as you said, this trade facilitation has been ongoing for a long time with many aspects of it. My further question, and I'm quite excited about the inspection processes that you mentioned, but timeline, Mr. Ashford.
So, the J-Swift is ongoing.
Microphone, please.
I'm loud, so. So, J-Swift, the timelines are pretty set. I would say by the end of this year, we will have the Trade Board Limited, which was onboarded already, the full onboarding of the PQP, the Plant Quarantine and Produce Inspection Branch of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. Next, the Pesticide Control Authority under the Ministry of Health, and then the Hazardous Substances Regulatory Authority. Those are the entities that are scheduled by the end of this fiscal year, member. We will move expeditiously to onboard the VSD, the Veterinary Services Division. I must say, though, that while it seems as if we're going just step by step and incrementally, that the base in terms of the inspection protocols for all agencies have been worked on already. So it's a matter of working on the business processes to fully onboard them so that when they're launched, persons can actually use them and we don't have a mishap.
Member Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To you, through you to Ms. Ashpool, I am listening carefully. I am as excited as my colleague, I think. The fact, though, is that you are speaking to us from the standpoint, but what is it that you are doing for John Public? John Public is that small man that goes to his farm in the morning and come back and listen to the news in the afternoon. Is there any webinars, seminars, any meeting of people, stakeholders, whether through it be the municipal corporation, whether it be through an NGO, CBO, what the situation is? Because whilst you will capture us here, we are here. What we need really is a larger buy into the situation, because these are the persons who you really want to capture. What is it that you are doing so that we can spread the word just the same?
So, member, I would maybe suggest that we ask Ms. Vieira to come in at this point in time. The Jamaica Business Development Corporation is the entity that does the most direct contact with our small, medium-sized, and micro businesses, has done some sensitization of some 10,000 persons over the course of the last year, and continues to work through some 13 small business development centers across the island with small businesses. I'm going to ask her to outline some of the work of that organization directly with small businesses.
Thank you, PS. Mr. Chairman, members, I know this is the exciting part. We are the field people. We work directly with the MSME sectors in the field. And what happened in March was that the client group went into panic. So our first role then was to move them from panic to passion, to get them to fall in love again with their business ideas. And what we have been, as PS says, we have been intensifying the work in the field through technology, because as you would understand and know, we wouldn't be able to be face-to-face with everybody in this time, but we certainly relied on technology to reach to our client group. We're always open for business. And we have done more than 18,000, about 18,200 consultations with the MSME sector. And we have been doing workshops, seminars. In fact, one is going on right at this moment that's focused on the development, redevelopment of a textile, indigenous textile industry in Jamaica, a program that we have been doing in consultation with Nigeria. So we have been there in the field. What we have guided our client group to do, as you say, stop the hemorrhage, but there is need now for revitalization of the businesses and to use the opportunity, to use the shock, to revisit their businesses. Some of them are not really businesses, they're ideas, they're hobbies, and the business model could not, as it is, withstand the shock. So we have spent a lot of time going through with them, how do you really redevelop or develop a business idea that is prepared not only for you to earn, but to be resilient when shocks come. The pandemic is one, but there are many others that will come, hurricane and all the other things that come along. We are really a national network broker for the sector. So we do work closely with our agencies within our ministry and within other ministries as well, but we work closely also with the private sector. So we feel one Jamaica, everybody needs to contribute. So we have done all those webinars. Almost weekly, we're doing like 3, and they were well attended. People were hungry for the information and the guidance, how to revisit your books, how to register. And we work closely with companies of Jamaica, getting them registered. And I heard you asking about quality standards. What our message was that you're not making your products just for the community in which you live, but for the global market space. So international standards had to be interpreted so that all levels of operators, micro, small, medium, understands that standards must be in place for you to enter the market. We talked about research and really demystifying that concept of research. It's not a university activity for a PhD. It's about you understanding the market you're targeting and how you, the avenues you take to get to those clients, and who are your real clients for the market. So research, we spent a lot of time demystifying that process of research. We have been working very closely with the major financial institutions, and you might have heard of a program that agriculture and ourselves have joined with support from the ILO for small fishers and farmers who normally don't see themselves as business. When we have our seminars and say, put up your hand, those who are in business, their hands never go up. Them just do a thing. And we had to explain that once you're trying to earn and to pay the university fee for your son, you should be in business. So there is now, with guidance, strong guidance and support from agriculture for our small farmers and fisher folk to become part of a process which is out of Sagicor for health insurance, for pension, and general savings and so on. So our role is to prepare them for that process, to make them understand how we're not in charity, how you prepare yourself as a business person to present yourself to whatever agency that you have to enter and encounter. We say at JBDC, and by the way, this is our 20th anniversary, we say from concept to market and all the in between, because we have about 30 business advisors who are available to take you from that concept and help you to understand if it is a viable proposition. And then we do have some resource centers, and PS mentioned that. The main one we have is at Marcus Garvey Drive, 76 Marcus Garvey Drive, where we have engineers, product designers, technical people will get you through your packaging designs, etc., etc. But we do have an exciting network called our Small Business Development Centers, which are all over the island, and we have the major universities as partners. And each of them, we have worked together to establish business centers. So you have NCU, University of the West Indies, UTech, Edna Manley. All of these, CMU, have come on board. And each one, of course, as you recognize, have a particular industry or activity that they are focused on. And it is for them to work along with us to ensure that case, the agricultural and rather, that they provide that kind of support that we do from main office to the hinterlands of Jamaica, all over. So it has been going on. Now that we have 13 of those, so most parishes are represented, but we also have started, again with Sagicor, what we call is a financial network. So this is the first one we have established in that network, and it's where we have the business center upstairs on that building and the bank is downstairs. So that when the client goes to the bank, then if they need business services, they can go upstairs and get that support. So that is going. Now, a big part of what we do is to bring new ideas, and you did ask about going forward, because when you revive, then you need to grow, and you did speak about growing. We have done a major work with the creative industries, and it's important that yesterday Honorable PM spoke about entertainment and so on. What we have committed is to work with the creative industries to see how we can convert some of those great ideas into real businesses. And of course, we'll be working closely with JIPO to ensure that the protection of intellectual property, but important for us that they are businesses, and we are training the banking sector so that when you go as an entertainer, that they see you as a business because you are prepared to present yourself as a business. So we did a big mapping of the creative industries, which we published with the support from the British Council and the Ministry of Culture. We're doing a lot of work in the communities. We have done with the anticipated development at Port Royal, for instance. We have worked with them to develop products, and they have a mark registered about the work, the products that are outputted from Port Royal. So when it gets real active, what we expected to see is a lot of gift and craft, including specialized foods coming that are really related and registered under that Port Royal brand. So we are working in the communities, we are working generally, and really implementing some of the policies that our ministry is leading, because we are the implementation aspect of the work. But the gift and craft would have had a major problem with the travel because of what Think Jamaica shops, one we have in the airport, you know, clearly if travel goes down, then sales there would have gone down. So we're happy that we have used this interim period to really upgrade the quality of some of the products and so on and so forth. There's a digital conversation going on now, and it's very nice and sexy. But we have to interpret, as we discussed with our permanent secretary, interpret that word and that concept for MSMEs. It's not about just getting technology, it's about getting appropriate technology that will work for them. So e-commerce is sexy and everybody is doing e-commerce, but there is a technical preparation that's required. And the worst thing that could happen if you set up a website and brand Jamaica is exposed and we can't deliver. So we're working in the background to ensure that when the client goes forward, with e-commerce, they are well prepared to represent us as Jamaicans in an efficient way. So we're doing a lot of work in the background on that. And we ourselves have an e-commerce site, the Things Jamaican site, which we are in the process of restructuring and upgrading, because that is an avenue, a gateway for many of the gift and craft persons to have their products sold. We're working back with Ministry of Culture. A lot of our products are agro-based, and Pierre spoke about the extraction, essential oil extraction project, which we are doing in consultation and MOU with RADA, and our first extraction plant will be at Linstead, at the RADA location, and this is where we're going to be helping farmers to extract from moringa, ginger, pimento, and noni to start with, and this is for export and for local consumption, because 90% of our essential oils are imported. And this is for pharmaceutical, for cosmetic industry as well, but for food. So we are in that process at the moment in implementing that project during this budget year. And we hope that that will be a stimulus for the private small business. Those are our favorite people, for the small business to take this on then as also a business opportunity to follow. So innovation is key in our language. We're trying to get our MSMEs to see new product opportunities, new services, and new technology that can system to become really a big part of contributing to our national development. We are active, we're working, and the MSMEs are recovering, they're understanding, and we're working with international agencies to ensure that we provide strong support. And one of those is CIAL and Dun & Bradstreet, to make sure that they have the tools to enter the export market. And of course, JAMPRO, our sister agency, we're working on a major program, which maybe JAMPRO will speak about, but is the Export Max program, where JBDC prepares the manufacturers, and JAMPRO takes them to market. So we're doing that in partnership with them and the private sector. So many things are happening, and there is revival in the mix at this moment. But just to say that we never went to sleep, we didn't panic. We started to look from a point of passion, falling back in love with something you started with passion, but that you needed to revisit. Like in a relationship, we are the counselor to make sure that you recognize that things can happen when you do it right, and you come with an informed eye. We are the national network for this MSMEs, which we know is the engine of growth for most countries. Jamaica is absolutely no different.
Madam, I don't see a name tag.
Vera.
Oh, yeah. Madam Vera. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just want to, I heard her mention business support centers. Do you have a listing and location? Across the country?
We have, yes, we are all across the country. We have one in Montego Bay, for instance, Savlamar, Manchester. We have in Ocherias, that covers Portland. We have one in St. Thomas. Those are the ones we manage. But the centers now, Case is a business center for us. Kingston, we have a couple, as I said before. But we cover the entire island. Yes.
Just a follow-up on this question.
And then Member Witter, when you're done, then Member Witter.
You do have a listing and you have centers, but even for me, I'm not seeing a significant push in terms of advertising and ensuring that the populace know of the services, where they can procure the services, especially in a time when many of our citizens, though they're struggling to start these small businesses, don't quite have an appreciation of where to go for help. So I'm not sure what your advertising budget is like and how we could do more in pushing the information out to the public.
Okay,
first, and in the same, before you can answer in the same breath that you have given a general idea, general location, Ochi, Montego Bay. But what we really want to do is to have a definitive location so that I can send somebody to 3 Market Street or 10 James Avenue, something.
we can provide the information for you with the telephone numbers, the name of the lead person, etc. And we will send that to you for sure.
Not just for us, you know. The idea is, especially with us wanting to spur growth, is to get it out there nationally. Figure out a way out of the advertising budget now to promote for persons to appreciate this is what is available, a video.
Yes.
And these are the addresses that you can go to and the telephone number to contact us, because we want to get your small businesses growing.
Okay.
And we're here to give you the support.
So members, Zara, if I could say that the first thing that we can do is provide that information to all members of parliament so that they are able to pass this information on to their constituents. And we will also, we take the point that in these times, information being circulated as much as possible, advertised as much as possible in terms of the services, and ensuring that people are aware of these services is critical. So we can look again, Ms. Vieira, at additional avenues and opportunities for us to make this information continuously available to the MSME sector.
Yes, I'm very happy to hear that you're going to give me an advertising budget.
No,
I saw the smirk earlier. So.
We have, I'm sure, Ms. Vieira, but we have ways, I'm sure, that we can work together to get that done.
We have been in the news. We have serviced 10,000 clients, for instance, during the last budget year.
Nowhere near enough.
But we will. Yes. One of the things I believe very strongly in is how we leverage across our entire network. So, you know, how does the ministry's PR support? How do we make sure that at every event that one entity has, information about services from others can be provided? So we do have a very constrained budget. I did make a very I made a very general statement in my opening remarks about rebuilding the ministry. It's a ministry that will require some additional resources to do all the things that we want to do. But we know that with the COVID pandemic, the government's resources are also constrained. So to a large extent, we have to look at how we do the best that is possible with what we have. So using social media and other avenues, we can look again, although I know that Ms. Vieira and JBDC will have done so in the past, we can look again at as a network and how we can partner to get information out. As I said, you know, starting with the very members of this House can possibly make a difference in providing you with the information to be able to pass that on to persons in your communities that you serve.
So, P.S., I'm going to make a suggestion. In terms of how people consume information, it would be good if you can package something that we could put on our social media pages. Yeah. Help you in terms of Facebook and Instagram, in terms of pushing and promoting the information you have available. It would be wonderful if you package it in terms of videos so persons can use it. They're willing to look at videos particularly. And if we are to hand out things in our constituencies or have it at the office, then they would also want to have package information that looks attractive, easy to read, easy for them to go through.
I think it's an important point, Ms. Vieira,
yes,
that
what
I
I
think we can
do,
look at.
Yes, the information that we will send on the locations of our centers will include the social media address that we have, because we do have videos. All the workshops are on social media. So we'll put that link, all the links, in the documentation that we send back to you.
I think if I can help Member Holness, because I remember when I first became Member of Parliament in 2012, the office in Manchester approached me as Member of Parliament to see how best we can work together. Since then, I don't think I've really had that same contact and relationship. So it is a matter of just the offices in the various parishes also in building that relationship also, because a lot of the persons that your entity would want to help also come through our offices for assistance. So I think what the members are really saying is that one hand can help the other by just forming a relationship. So if they have the information, they can then know direct. So I think we have elaborated that there will be that new synergy and information flow going forward. So, all right.
Pierce, Ms. Vera, I guess you can pick up that in this meeting. All members of Parliament are on one about how your entity reach people in the community. And the simple reason is that we encounter the people out there who need the support from an entity like yours. So while Ms. Olney spoke rightfully about publicizing what you do, let people know about you, we have to dig deeper. Chairman mentioned about the synergy with his office. I would like to see more synergy with other entities like the SDC that is there in the communities who encounter these persons with great ideas, right? But lacking the kind of organizational support with the accounting, the planning, and all of that to make the business work. And very important, Mrs. Vera, it's all good and thing to talk about the new companies or new businesses. There are some good small businesses out there, good idea, that we need what support we can give to those existing ones to stop them from falling through the crack and to help them to grow and become better and bigger companies. The biggest of companies in the world will tell you they start from very small. Many of these in our communities, in the constituencies that we represent, that's where the great innovative ideas are. And many of those small business operators, some of them informal, they never went to tertiary institution. They lack the kind of training for seeking information that they get for their business to go. And that's where we come in, and I said we as a state come in to facilitate those in becoming, one, sustainable, and two, to grow. So in summary, Madam Vera, I would like to see the synergy expand. The Member of Parliament office, the parish councils or municipal corporations, the SDC, and other entities like those who are functioning at the community level where the business is.
So Chairman, if I can just jump in again, Member, let me just say that, you know, JBDC is one of the government agencies that does an excellent job, and you will have heard of the passion coming in Ms. Vera's speech. I mean, even when we were in the corridor waiting to come in, yes, her passion for business and for the job that she does. Even when we were outside waiting to come in, we were standing up there, she and I and some others, exploring other things that can be done. But of course, no matter how excellent a job you do, there are always opportunities to look again and see what more can be done. So we take the point that we need to look again. My minister likes to say that we are the linkage industry. We work right across government in everything that we do. And so that's kind of one of the mantras for the ministry. So we will look again to see how we can take on board. As Chairman said at the beginning, this session was for us to tell you what we're doing, but also to get ideas and to share. And so we have heard the recommendations, yes, and we will look again to see how we can add to what we already do to expand the reach and to get the information out even more than it is at the moment.
Thank you, Madam Pierce. Member Whittard, and Member Sibley's, and then Member Davis. Member Whittard.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My question is just a follow-up for Ms. Is it Ashpool? Yes.
Ashpool.
You mentioned in your remarks about the issue of your new innovation in terms of simplifying your processes. But you also mentioned the issue of the outdated Trade Act. So what I want to find out is whether or not the needed amendment to that act is what kind of impact does it have on in terms of your application and the effectiveness of your new endeavors?
Thank you for that question, member. Really, what we want to do, so I mentioned the Trade Act. That act was enacted because when we had a Prices Commission. That is no longer the case. What we're trying to do is have an act that responds to the current trade agreement and also responds to the synergies across different entities that deal with trade. Jamaica is one of those countries that has over 20 agencies that deal with cross-border trade. What really we're trying to do under the Trade Facilitation Program, through the Trade Act and through the amendments to the other acts, because it will not only impact on that Trade Act, is look at where we can have better synergies, better interoperabilities, better efficiency in terms of coordinated inspection, coordinated information, and that sort of thing. So I'll say that, in essence, we're looking at efficiency, and we're looking at how the acts can be crafted to speak to each other and to achieve the required efficiency across border regulatory agencies.
You are now looking at bringing that to Parliament for the amendments?
Pardon me? Yes, certainly. So we are now in the process. It actually was put out to tender in February. But we are now reviewing the TOR for basically bolstering the TOR so that respondents to that tender can achieve what we set out to achieve. So we're anticipating that definitely before the end of this calendar year that you will have that. The process would have been far advanced.
What have you put out to tender?
The consultancy for the repeal and replacement of the Trade Act.
And you're expecting by the end of the calendar year, you'll have somebody in place?
No. For that process to be far advanced, Chairman. For that process to be far advanced. So
looking at about 2 financial years from now, basically.
Yes, we would have gone to tender already in February. The response was not what we had intended in terms of the persons responding to the tender. And so that is why the team, the technical committee, is now reviewing the TOR so that the responses are in line with the objectives of the exercise.
That response, I'm curious. Is it that responses were poor, or is it that they were not properly pointed to what you are looking for? What was the deficiency you found with the responses? So
the actuality is that we didn't have any response to the tender that was put out in February.
I find, Madam Pierce, and for this year so far, that most of the agencies that have been appearing in front of the committee, when it comes to putting out tenders for consultants, and the take-up has been very low by what we are seeing. And it comes down to what remuneration of what it is being offered. And if it is that way, just as a country, if we're going to get quality persons to look at employment in doing projects like this, we have projects that have been delayed for years because we have not been able to get persons with the required specialization to take it up. Then obviously there's a problem, and it is something that the Ministry of Finance has to look at, because you can't ask somebody to come and give up another job elsewhere to come and work for $10 when he can get $50 out on the road. So this in itself is a problem right across the government. We heard it with ODPM just 2 weeks ago. Manager. We could not even get a project manager because of the same situation. So, you know, as I said, this looks like this is 3 years down the road. If it is that you're going to go back with the same salary package asking for the same requirements.
That's where I was curious, Mr. Chairman. What
you're going to come up
that...
and then you're going to hear that you second someone from somewhere else. It is a problem for government right now, and it is something that I think, as a committee, we can write a report to be tabled, speaking of something that we have seen right across the board, in where there's a low take-up of advertise when positions are being advertised, and no one taking them up, because it actually slows down what you're trying to achieve.
So a good idea that you're talking about, Ms. Ashpole. It's all good and nice when we make these grand announcements about these grand things we are going to do. But when you have basic things like those to cause them to come into being are not happening, as you are reporting now with even that exercise, it delays it. And it never becomes a reality. So the development that is to take place from those implementation just get pushed down the road. So there's an urgency to it. And that's why I asked the question, because I was curious as to what were the contributing factors to that quality response that you spoke of.
Point taken, Chairman and Member. I must say, though, as they would say, there are many ways to skin a cat, and that's probably not the good example, but we're looking at different ways of identifying funding. One is through the Foundations for Competitiveness and Growth project, incidentally being managed by JAMPRO. We're trying to, the funds have been committed, but we're trying to get those funds released and see if we can tap into those funds to assist with some of these projects. We're also looking at what we can do with the existing TOR to ensure that if phasing is possible, that is also considered.
That is basically just kicking the can down the road. And we just have to be honest with ourselves. You created a TOR in the first instance because this is what you require. To adjust the TOR to fit your financial situation is not giving you what you want. And we're just saying, and it is not for you to answer. We as a committee see the challenge that your agency and different departments and agencies across the government of Jamaica is facing. And we're just saying that this is something that needs to be fixed if it is that we want to advance and get quality for the taxpayers of Jamaica. That's all. So it's not for you to answer, but it is just something that we see as a committee, that we think that we should make that recommendation to the Ministry of Finance. Right? So, members, go ahead.
Chair,
sorry to...
is it that the challenge that you have is as a result of what is being offered in terms of remuneration for these services, or there are other challenges?
It would have been, we believe it would have been directly related to that, member, and it would be in line with the discussions that we were having.
Yeah. You thought I was just being mischievous? Go ahead, member Siblings. No, man, I'm just yeah. Go ahead, member Siblings.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just to comment on the last bit of conversation. We have heard over time that it could be salary that is preventing the taking up of positions. What I would like to hear is something more definitive, to say, based on our research, overall, jobs are not being taken up because the salary that is being offered is not attractive, and or is it salary, is it other things that bring in? Because there's a school of thought that salary is not the only reason why persons take up a job, because when I look across us, you're there. you know. So it would be good if we could get some more scientific.
The PS.
So just to say, member, that there is a salary scale across government that we work with. By and large, we do find that we are able in ministries to attract persons. There may be the odd specialist position, but generally in government, you're able to attract persons for employment, although the salaries may not be as good as they are in the private sector. And a lot of people work in government because of our commitment to national development and because of the interest that the job has. You know, you have an opportunity to work on long-ranging and the expertise that they build for the future. So this particular instance that Ms. Ashpool is talking about was really a consultancy, which is then short-term, specific to a particular consultancy requiring specialized skills. So those are a little different to the situation in terms of salaries and filling positions on the organizational structure.
And I would expect that even with that consultancy, there's a salary scale that you have to work, band that you have to work within, so which is causing the problem.
As I said, Chair, I do not agree with you, Chair.
That you're working with.
Without evidence, I do not necessarily agree with you that it is the salary alone, because members, the civil servants who are here, they have not said specifically that, and that is what I want to hear. Is it that the position is not filled because of the salary that is offered for this particular position? So that is what I'm... could I just get that answer, Chair?
But member, I think that was answered by Ms. Ashpool and Mr. But the member asked the question directly to Ms. Ashpool, but if you would like to answer.
So member, in the case, as the PS would have said, this particular case for the Trade Act consultancy, we're looking basically for lawyers, and it with specialized drafting skill sets. The budget for that, based on my knowledge personally, incidentally, I was in consulting prior to this ministry, was perhaps, I'm looking at about 3 times the amount that was offered for this consultancy. So while we cannot say that this was the only reason that caused this consultancy to fail, which is what it did, caused the tender to fail, we can, I believe, safely say in this instance, this particular instance for the Trade Act consultancy, that was a major factor, given the skill sets that were required for legislative instructions.
Thank you. I will move to the point that the question, an announcement, because you have made my day. You have made my day. Those are the kind of data that we would love to have to prepare ourselves and to see how best we can make some great recommendation to help you and to help my people in Northern Clarendon. They really want to farm ganja.
All right, so thank you very much, Madam Graham. Just what Madam PS, what I'm going to be recommending is that for us to better prepare to, like, industries with the cannabis, small and medium-sized enterprise, if we can get some additional data, like from the company's office. There was an announcement by the minister in his presentation, the amount of new companies that registered during the pandemic, how many of those are small and medium size, some data that we can better prepare ourselves for a meeting like this. So I am recommending we have our next meeting date on the 7th of July. If we could get some additional data, just that was presented a while ago by Ms. Graham, to deal with that industry, small and medium-sized enterprise. We had Ms. Vera mention about 10,000 contacts with 10,000 new entities in the last year. If we can get information,
Facts,
if those
figures.
were, right, just the segments, are these repeat, are they new, just more data that we can have a better understanding of what we're dealing with and how was affected by the pandemic going in now and the recovery that has even taken place in many instances. Yes, go ahead.
Chairman, thank you. I just wanted to add to what you're saying. Sorry,
Go ahead.
We did a similar thing with the Ministry of Labour, where I'm wondering if we can work as well, because first-time MPs and others, we don't necessarily know and understand all the different things that the ministry can do or is doing out there. And when we encounter people, we can give them a lot more help and say, go and do this or do that, or this can work or that can work. If we could maybe even get a little sensitization, little program, a little meeting time once. Tell us what you do, tell us how this works, tell us what we can do for the people, what to make it fit things together and help them.
Member Davis, my apologies, ma'am.
Sorry, my apologies, I didn't realize.
No.
No, thank you, Chair. But having listened to you now, I think that the question I was going to ask was in relation to the businesses. And I guess it ties in because I really wanted to know if they were able to say definitively how many businesses had been closed and what, if anything, has been done to encourage them, whether by way of incentives, I don't know, programs, to help them to recover. So I guess it ties into having that information.
Yeah. So we'll get the data and then we can better prepare. Member, and then yourself, Member Jackson. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Madam PS. Does the MIIC program falls under your ministry? MIIC.
MIIC is a thing out.
Yes.
Microphone, Madam.
Sorry, Chairman. So the MIIC entity member has been closed, and the MIIC funds are being transferred to the Exim Bank, and those funds will be used for on-lending to productive MSMEs and persons in that productive value chain.
Mr. Chairman, I hope to see that work as the MIIC used to work. Because I remember clearly, MIIC used to reach this small man, the man with 3 or 4 pigs. I hope where they have transferred the funds to, that those persons who work within that sector will make sure that they reach a small man.
We've noted that, Chairman and Member. We will be putting out additional information on that, on the particular plans around those funds tomorrow.
Okay.
So by tomorrow evening, that should reach the media.
But can that be added in the report also?
It can be added in the report as well.
It just shows the member's age for him to remember MIIC.
I have to protect the member, Chairman.
Yes.
Not that old. Chairman, go back to CLA, and by way of disclosure, I'm involved with an entity that's a conditional licensee with the CLA, and I'm directing a question there. My colleague from North Clarendon sought to get more information about the expanse of your activity, the CLA. And you had started out to mention the number of licenses that are granted. Later on, you went to make some reference to the sales, which I presume is in the local market from the herb houses and so on, correct? All right, let me just finish then, and you can answer. I think the country on a whole, when the licensing regime came into being for the cannabis industry, the country was excited into the growth for the small farmers, and in particular, the export potential of cannabis. And much was said by the previous administration, current administration, about everybody, about the opportunities for Jamaica ganja and the international market. And so a whole new light began to shine about what will happen to Jamaica and that. I would like in your response to speak about the growth of the businesses, not just in terms of licenses granted, and come back to that in a second, but the sale of cannabis, whether for recreational purposes, medicinal purposes, as licensed entity, because we know a lot of it was being sold for leisure purposes without any licensing, just that we weren't measuring it, right? So I would love to give some feedback, but if you don't have the information now, we enforce it for now.
I was just going to ask you.
I was hoping for the chairman. I
was just going to ask you, member, if since we have asked them for additional information.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have to give me now.
Yeah, so let them just provide information so that we can all be on the same play field.
And one other thing in that regard, Ms. Graham, I would like to. The Alternative Development Program in CLA, which as I understand was targeting the traditional farmers, right, the small farmers who seem to have got left out of the formalization of the system.
For that to be included in her report.
So that as a country we don't seem to be leaving them behind, the ones who really made Jamaica ganja famous, so to speak.
Right.
So in your information, if you could give us an update on that.
Not for you to answer now.
We're not asking for answers.
On the export, because I realized that it was a major concern.
We're not asking for answers yet.
Okay.
What we want to do is to give you a sense of the things that we want to be able to appreciate as it relates to what is happening in the industry, so that when you do come with the report, it is inclusive of these concerns.
Yes.
So that you're better prepared with the level of information we'd like to have. So for me, a part of my concern was exactly export, because if we are not exporting, that industry is dead. We can forget about pretending that we have a cannabis industry, because we are back to square one if we are not able to have substantial exports, and I have seen no evidence or proof that Jamaica is in fact doing anything major in terms of export. I have heard persons complaining bitterly of having invested millions and billions of US dollars in Jamaica and are ready to pull out of Jamaica, because having paid for all these licenses and expecting to be in a position that they would start to export, nothing is happening in that regard. So I don't know what we are going to do going forward when we are in a place where, one, I have seen the US saying that they're opening up to accepting deposits and accounts for persons who are in the cannabis industry. I guess that's a biggie for them in the US. How does this impact us in Jamaica? Are we still in a position where our banks will not take monies for persons in that type of business? And do we genuinely see any synergy and opportunities between the banking sector and their ability to export and to save and to grow these businesses? We really want to appreciate that, because if that is not there, this industry is not going to grow in Jamaica. And I get the sense that we are put in a place where persons have come and almost gotten what our marijuana is like, and they are growing businesses nicely in Australia and in Israel and in the US and Canada, everywhere else. And by the time Jamaica is let into the market, we are dead. That is the sense. I would love to be able to get that appreciation when next you come to have a discourse with us.
Okay, noted. But I can just say a brief thing on the exports. The markets globally, they actually were not that open. Everybody is trying to build their own cannabis industry, so export is not at the forefront, or import, I should say. However, the authority has approved 42 export authorization since 2018. And these
42 exports of what magnitude?
Right, but I'm going to come to that.
That is what is important. Put a dollar value to that 42 exports.
Right, so I'm saying to you that this is the stage of where the industry is right now, to tap into those markets. Now, locally, what we've been doing is, because of the standards, the GMP and the EU standards in some of the jurisdictions that are open to importing our cannabis, we have had to now be working alongside those testing agencies that allow testing to meet those standards there. So some of the jurisdictions that are open to us and what we're working towards would be places like, we have done exports to Canada, which have accepted our cannabis, Australia, Germany, Zimbabwe. So this is potential for future exports. That's what I'm saying. This is where we are in the industry now.
So we'll have that later, so you can put a dollar value to the export also in the report. All right, members, let me thank the PS for appearing today and seeing that there are so many agencies and departments under the ministry that we'll invite you to come back on the 7th and for you to give us that updated report. Members, so I want to thank you and the team and apologize to those who were not able to participate today, but I'm sure we'll tighten it up and get more specifics in the reports. All right?
Mr. Chairman, before you close, I had one question for Ms. Graham.
She'll be back, you know.
Yeah, but it's just a follow-up, you know.
Go ahead, member, since you...
Yes, just to find out if you do any sort of marketing support for the existing farmers.
I'm not hearing you, sir.
Yeah? No.
The CLA has no restrictions on export quantities. There is no restriction on export quantities. The exports that we have facilitated to date is what is requested of us by the industry. So if they come with a whole lot more, then they will be issued with with a permit for a whole lot more. But it is what the industry players come to us with that we grant. So we have not placed any kind of restriction on the quantity of cannabis that can be exported.
No, but you were speaking to the issue of sales and downturn in sales and all of that. So I don't know how the market goes.
The magnitude of what, sir? I'm not hearing you.
No, I said you were speaking to the issue of downturn in sales and so forth.
Right.
I don't understand how the market goes, so I'm trying to find out how does it work? What would have influenced the downturn that you speak
in
of?
sales?
In sales, yes.
Okay, well, what I was saying was that it had to do with the impact of COVID-19 overall. Persons had slowed down their businesses. There were the restrictions on movements. There were lockdowns. There were curfews during that time. They continued to produce. They continued to plant. However, sales slowed down. Processors were just not buying because of the uncertainty, the prevailing uncertainty from the pandemic.
Madam Graham, let me thank you, but you can include that in your report also. All right, so let me thank you, Madam Pierce and team. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon. Members, we have, as I mentioned before, and many of you were not here, reports from the Ministry of Justice, Ministry of National Security. We have the report requested, the follow-up report from the Ministry of Transport and Mining. We also have the report from Office of the Prime Minister, the Heart NSTA, and you would have received the on the beaches, yeah, right? No, we have 3 dates yet so far for July. That's for the sitting of the PAAC, which is July 7th, which we have asked the Ministry of Industry to reappear. So we have the 14th and the 28th. All right, so from the reports that we have now, we can set and send notice to whichever ministry departments and agencies that we would like to appear on those 2 dates. Yes, Member Siblings.
Those reported with regards to the impact of the COVID-19?
Yes.
And we're not going to, are those reports
we will,
reviewed
we have them
to
now,
ensure
they are with us, so we can review and ask any additional
what
questions. Yes.
Is really needed.
I know, yes. All right, Mr. Bartley, we'll ask Mr. Bartley to just review them and ask for the adjustments needed. All right. So we have Ministry of Justice, Ministry of National Security, HART, NTA. My recommendation would be Ministry of National Security and HART, NTA for the 14th and the 28th. And putting it to the committee or any other suggestion. Members, I'm awaiting your response.
It's okay with me, Chairman.
Or since, unless you want to just bring both justice and national security at the same time, seeing that it has to do with the crime and the Ministry of Justice itself is, as a standalone, it may not have that great deal of so we could just merge both national security and justice. No? That's the point I'm making. Well, I expect that we'll be closing off sometime in July. Until then, because we have been giving up a few Wednesdays to other committees. So, right, so 14th, and then we'll have the 28th, and we'll see what timetable is. Let me just say this, because this timetable also has been approved by the leader of government business, because he's trying to get the committees to actually meet and do work, as Member Holness would. Yeah. So let us just set those 2 dates for those 3 ministries, and then we'll take it from there. All right. So it would be the 14th. We'll bring Ministry of Justice and National Security, and on the 28th we bring the HART NTA. All right. Members, I move for the adjournment of this meeting. So moved by Member Sibley's and seconded by thank you, members.